Okay, on to reconstructing the drip rails of this car. This is the piece you get from AMD, which is pretty nice and heavy. Unfortunately, I did not know you do not make, or at least I've been able to find, and it's not listed at AMD, the drip rail that goes along the A-pillar. So what I had to do was get 2 sets of these, which are not cheap. It was like $200 and some a set. So I ended up having to take one of the sets and cut the straightest section out, and then manipulate it to straighten it out, and then curve it to fit the A-post. You can see this side is already done as far as putting these 2 pieces together. Normally they don't get welded together, but we have a situation here that's not conventional in the sense that when the roof rails were eliminated here, there's a little flange that comes out on the roof skin that's supposed to tie in to the drip rail. It's supposed to sandwich together. Well, that's gone completely. So what I've had to do is I left the bottom piece in, since this is all solid welded now. So you'd have to literally cut that back free. Then once you did that, you wouldn't have anything to weld back to. So normally this would drill out. There's some spot welds here, and there's some spot welds on the top, about 1 million of them. And I don't know what's going on here exactly, but bottom line is I just looked at it for a long time and decided I would just overlay this piece on the underside. It's only the thickness of the metal, and it's quite a bit of an adjustment to all of this stuff under here as far as the door seal and the channel that goes on underneath of it. So that thickness is not really going to hurt us for what we're doing. Not what you would want to do if you're going to restore a car, but again, we're in a situation here. We're not going to spend that extra time to drill this all out and get this all back down and put that flange in when it really doesn't mean that much to us. What I had to do was remove the back flange so that it wouldn't stack out further. In other words, I cut it right about in this area here. That way I could take these holes, which are the holes that you screw this. This is the channel that holds the weather stripping. And so what I did was I used these holes to line up with the existing holes that are in that channel already, so that I got the exact same alignment of it. And then I went ahead and put this piece in its proper location, and so that I could back engineer this piece here. So this was in, and then I cut my section out of my other set. I cut off the rim the same way, used a shinker stretcher to put a curve in it so that it matched what appears to be a straight A-post. It's curved in this direction quite a bit, and so it's got a slight arc in this direction. So both of those directions had to be manipulated in order for the front piece to work. And I used my the chrome trim for the A-post as a guide as to how long the piece had to be. So that's what I'm up to right now. Got to put this up in the car, and then I've got to start on the other side. Okay, so here we have the roof rails, drip rails, rain gutters, whatever you want to call them, back on the car. Pretty happy with the way they came out, and especially this front piece, which, like I said, I had to cut up a larger piece in order to get that to work, but it's in. And we'll move on to the next thing. I was going to get involved with the windshield bed next, but I'm going to wait till the car is cut free from the platform to do that, because it's a little difficult to deal with the glass in this overreach here without help. So be a little bit easier once I can walk straight up to it without a front clip on this car. Anyway, got the door pins in for the door hinges, rebuild the door hinges. So I guess I'll just go on to that and hang the doors so I can get that all straightened away. Okay, so the hinge pins came in and the bushings came in. So I rebuilt the hinges and mounted this door. to see what we have in the way of any issues. Also, I have it in position to really set these plates, these weld nuts in here. Now that the door is in adjustment, I'm going to put these weld plates in the top and the bottom, weld them in, and that'll allow me to bolt it in from the outside. I was a little bit dismayed to see such a tight gap here. It is adjusted all the way forward, so I've taken it in this direction as far as I can. That means that I'm going to have to go back and take a Ziz wheel and slice this and open it up a little bit. Anyway, just another little task. Also, inside of the door on the driver's side, this is not the driver's side door. See this little floating plate here where you bolt the hinges to? That's missing out of the driver's door. Yeah, wonder what that was. Anyway, that's missing out of this driver's door right here. And, well, the good news is that it was taken out because the tabs that hold this in are bent straight. Bad news is, why didn't they put it back in? Anyway, I went ahead and I made another plate. It's threaded, and then it has a couple of slots in there to be able to push it up there and then bend the tabs over so it floats free, give you the adjustment you need. So these two holes are tapped out. 3/8/16 is what's going on there. This is a no good, and I only have one. So that's going to be a bit crafty to make one of these up. It's not one of those parts you can exactly buy. This is a little corner gusset that has 3 studs. You can see it only has 1 left. 1, 2 studs here are broken off. And this mounts inside the door in a way that locates the this is the lower bolt-up point for your vent window right here. And so this bolts through the front of the jamb, and then this sticks into the car and secures that. Anyway, there were a bunch of miscellaneous parts that came with the car. This was in there, but it doesn't look like anything else was in there. And by the way, if you're wondering why I didn't take the plate out of that door over there, it's a spare door that I'll be using for experimentation, for trying to see what components from the Challenger door will fit in the door. So that's going to be kind of a sacrifice door, so I need to have the hinge points on there so that it'll hang on there just the same as the other 2 doors. Anyway, on to the next task. Okay, so I've got to duplicate this bracket. I'm going to make a right and a left. This one's for the right hand door, and the reason I say that is because this is the slope of the front of the door jamb, and how this goes in. This is the door jamb side, and then this is internal to the door here. There was a stud sticking out here, and that's where the vent glass bracket goes down over here like a little fork. The fork at the bottom here, and then there's 2 studs that come out from the front side, which go through the face of the front of the door. And they're in slots so that you could move it in and out, side to side, so you can tune in the angle of your vent glass, make sure it's lined up correctly. So this one's going to be the easiest one. Obviously, I've got a master that I can copy, and then I'll have to try and do a mirror version of that for the opposite side. Won't be too hard as far as cutting this part out is concerned, but you know, matching the angles is going to be what I got to be careful about, but I'll make some patterns up for that. Also, what I'm doing here is obviously I'm not trying to bend it out of one piece of metal, is all these flanges are about 1 1/8 inches. So what I like to do whenever possible is drill the hole while stock is still flat. So I'll drill this hole out to the proper size here for the stud, and then I'll line it up, and then I'll tack weld it here with the hole already in it. I'll do the same for the front side, and I'll show you what all that looks like when I'm done. Okay, I went ahead and drilled out my hole with a letter H bit, which is designated for a 5/16 18 thread, which is the same size as this is one of the flange nuts that came off that holds the stud. So I threaded that. For the reason I threaded it is because what I like to do is, thread this into the hole, wind it all the way down, and then it's held in place so that I can just put a tack weld on it, and that's going to replicate my stud when the time comes. So that's done in advance, so when I get the thing all put together, I don't have to awkwardly drill it because of the shape of the piece. Okay, so this is what the bracket looks like when it's finished. I overlaid it, and the reason I was able to do that is because this is not really critical. I matched the holes for the studs and the locations where they go. This is actually not a copy, but a projection. It's 60 thousandths thicker based on this material. But like I said, it's not critical because this is a pretty sloppy hole based on the fork on the bottom of the vent window. And these two fit into two slotted holes that slide back and forth. And so, I can get away with I clamped each piece as I made it to the original, welded it across the top side first, and then reinforced it on the back with some tacks, just to thicken it up, give it a little gusset there, and then this little reinforcing rib on the back side. But all that's left now is to wind the studs in and tack them in and figure out what size studs I need. Okay, here it is with the studs welded in. They're just welded in on the back side. These turned out to be 1/4-20s. I thought they were all 5/16. Just the one in the front's a 5/16. That's the one that fits right here. And you drop that down in there, that forks over that, then there's a nut that will go over that. Anyway, then these two go through the face of the door. I'll show you that. I'll show you on this old door right here. This is the top of the door right here. These two slotted holes right below the hinge. And so this is inside. Of course, it's the opposite of what I'm trying to show you here. This one right here, the two slots there. This goes in this direction from the inside of the door, and then that fork drops down over here, and then there's a nut that goes over top of that. All right, sticking with the theme of it's a whole lot easier to deal with it now than later. With the trunk floor out of this car, anybody who's ever had to deal with the trunk hinges on these cars and the torsion bars knows that it's a whole lot easier to deal with them probably in this situation than under normal circumstances where you got to crawl into the trunk and try to mess around with getting all this stuff in. Well, I decided to use the opportunity to pull this stuff out, clean it up, and repaint it. Also, I'm going to add a bushing, just a steel piece of tubing here, because these are just two pieces of sheet metal that you can see how over time they warp up pretty good. So I'm going to sleeve that, make it a little less waggly, and so while the floor is out, it's easy to just crawl in there and sit on the floor and do this very comfortably, rather than wait till the whole two cars are mended together and then have to crawl in the car upside down. All right, so what I got is just a piece of 5/8 outside diameter. It's like 1/2 of an inch inside diameter tubing, and I've taken the existing holes and widened them out using one of these step bits. These are nice because sometimes twist bits will, if they're for a large hole, they'll grab and they'll make a mess out of something like this if you're trying to hand drill it. Anyway, those are less violent and they stay centered up a little bit better. So what I'll do is I'll just slide this down in there and I'll weld it around the perimeter, and then I'll grind it off, and then I'll have a little bit stronger pivot point there, and hopefully that'll be a little less wiggly. All right, so there's the slightly improved version of that. You can see the sleeve inside. So like I said, that'll be hopefully just a little bit less wiggly. It's not like putting a real tight bushing on there, but it's better than nothing. Okay, finally what I've done is I've cut 2 slivers, maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick, drilled them out for clearance, and when I do this assembly, this is the little push clip that goes on the stud in there. I'll put one of these on the inside and the outside, because right now this is just metal against metal in there, so this will just back it up with with Delrins nice and slick, and one on the outside. That way I could snug this clip up and again take some of the chatter out of these hinges. Well, as they like to say, this seam is just like the other seam. It's tighter than Dick's hat band, and we're gonna have to cut the quarter and push the door jamb back just a bit to open that up. We're pretty much set where we need to be, front to back, and the roll of the panel as it is in relation to the quarter panel, so, and also the rocker. Anyway, just one more detail. So it's that time. I thought about all the little metal projects I have left to do on this sheet metal work, and I thought it'd probably be better to do that once it's locked to the other chassis. That way, if I do anything on this while it's still on this platform, and I lift it onto the other car, it could move a little bit, and then I'll have to double my work. I'll have to do it over. So rather than do that, I'll wait till this is on and situated and locked down before I correct the doors, correct the quarter panel seams, and a few other things that I have to take care of. But anyway, this is now that this has all been repaired up here, I have a good solid connection at the hinge point for my little bracket to lift with my chain falls. One in the front, this one in the back, as I said before, bolts through those 2 plates that'll support the bumper eventually. And anyways, spent a little bit of the morning inside doing a plasma cut up in some of the substructure up there. It's very difficult to get in there and find a spot that's good to cut the minimal amount. I didn't want to get into cutting the wheel tubs because they're covered with undercoater, and that stuff would have caught fire and it would have made a smelly mess in here. Anyway, so I got above all of that and cut that out with a plasma cutter. Here's the reason why I didn't try to remove those other parts at the proper pinch welds where they're welded together by plug welding. I have to do this now because I have to get these 2 pieces apart. This was welded up, plug welded to the inner structure here at the pinch weld, and you can see what a butchery this is turning into, trying to get these 2 pieces apart, because naturally when you're plug welding, you're not controlling it like a spot weld would be, very precise and a certain dimension. You're just welding in the hole, and some are bigger, some are smaller, so that when you try to remove them, it's unpredictable where all that material is. So you could drill out the material, but you could end up with things hanging up, welds in unpredictable spots because they're ground off flush. You can't see where they're at. And some areas where there was solid welding that had to be completely ground away. Now I'll have to add some metal back to this. It's kind of a shame because this is a brand new piece of metal and it got welded back to the car. And so this is really the only area, and the other pinch weld in the door sill area that has to be done like this. So just have to go in there with all my tools and do my own beaver cutting over here and massacre it and do my best to try and put it back together whenever I get it free of the chassis. Okay, I thought once I got the right side of the car done that I'd know where to go to free up the left side. Unfortunately, it was welded in a bunch of different spots, so that was a whole different adventure, and finally got it loose. So I have to do a lot of cleanup on the inside and a few other metal projects inside the car and to the other car before I can actually start dropping it down and fitting it to put it in place. Anyway, we're to a point now where I can get this old chassis out of my way, which was one of my goals for this week, is to get this thing out of here and get myself a little bit more space. All right, so with the car off the chassis, I thought it'd be easier to show you some of the places I picked to cut. The back of the package tray, right in here. This is the tower that goes up into the sail panel or the C-post. I picked a point well above the wheel tub, and that's where it welds to the top of the wheel tub. And I cut out the material in front first so that I can get inside the pocket and then go around the perimeter here, and then some of the cuts were made from this side over here to get that gone. Then I zipped down here through the webbing and then down below this area right here, and then down this way and across. I zipped around the two supports, the crisscross supports that come down for the package tray here, and then the same over here. I went ahead and just drilled out these. I could probably have zipped it across here just below these capture points for the torsion bars for the hinges, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough material that if I want to tie these back down into the backs of the wheel tubs on the new car, that I'd have enough material to do that. Anyway, I had these out, cleaned them up, repainted them, cleaned these nylon glides up, added some nylon glides to this, plus cotter pin I should say, because once these are pulled off, they don't really grab that well. They pop off pretty easily. Anyway, that's all reinstalled. So over here, I had to, the fellow who put the new metal on had welded this new frame rail piece to the old frame rail extension. So I had to cut across the welds there, and there was another piece in here, small brace I had to get out of the way. Also, I took this inner panel off completely just to get at all of this stuff. There's a small gusset in here that comes up at an angle, and it ties in here, so I just cut that away completely. Drilled out all the spot welds and the plug welds along these edges here up to there, removing most of the inner panel along the way. I just took the plasma cutter and cut right along this side over here. I'll come back in later on and do a straight cut from here vertically. As you can see, that faint blue line there, and this way this piece won't interfere with the other car, because as we know, the side firewalls on that car are vertical, and these slope in. I clearanced out on that car to accommodate for the fact that this part leans in, but from here over I left it vertical to leave the strength in. I also cut the rocker straight here and down to the pinch weld. I will be removing a lot of this rocker material, probably about that much, but I want to make sure that I have enough metal to tie back in to my new frame rail on the other car before I decide where I want to cut that. A little bit of grizzly material still in there. Has to be dug out. For some reason or other, the guy who replaced the metal went ahead and solid welded the new metal to this old frame rail extension. I don't know what was the idea there, but I had to do a little bit of butchery to get it off because it was welded all along the pinch weld, and that was weird. On that side, he had welded it up front here on the pinch weld, but not over here. Anyway, so that took a little bit of time to dig that all out. You can see where, for some reason or other, he pieced in a new part of the door jamb from here down. I left the old door jamb in. Of course, there's nothing wrong with this old door jamb up here, but you're going to replace the door jamb, why not just, and you've got the quarter panel off, it's pretty darn easy to drill out these spot welds right here, put a whole new door jamb in. But he chose to just take this one section, and there we have it. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of an idea there. I'm going to go outside now and show you on the old chassis so you get a better idea of some of the cut points there. Okay, I thought I'd just take you out here to the chassis and show you the cutoffs relationship to the stuff that I just showed you. This is the little tower that connects the top of the wheel tub to the torsion bar fixture that for the rear trunk hinges. This is the rear curvature at the top of the package tray. Just above that, it's doubled up, and that's where the package tray is welded in. And I try to keep that line going across. Here's that tower I was telling you about that connects to the top of the wheel tub also and goes all the way up, strengthens up the C-pillar or the sail panel, whatever you prefer. There was a lot of material in front here. It was open, but it was webbed up, so I cut out the webbed material so that I can get in here and plasma cut around here, and then I cut on the back side over here, and then came across here and zipped up along these two braces. Got to be careful not to get in my own shadow here. These two braces, I just left those in, and then came down here, and you see across the other side maybe better. This area over here just zipped across and then down, and cut this where this is pinch welded together, the inner and the outer wheel tub. And then, of course, I took the inner quarter panels where the windows mount, took them out by just zipping them off high here. Then I went along and drilled out the welds, the plug welds that have been put in to the rockers there. And then this is what remains of the kick panel. And this is where the door pillar for the front of the hinge post is, right here. And I came down in front of it with a plasma cutter. Then I took a cutoff wheel and zipped down right there to cut the rocker in that location. And that's about it.